like to look at things. You know, everybody has their favorite way of learning.
I like hands-on learning.
You like hands-on learning, right? So if your highest priority is hands-on learning, then you need to have space and furniture and things within the space that enable you to do more hands-on learning. So, for example, having large tables like this might work out really well for doing some hands-on learning if you're doing projects, if you're going to do some artwork, if you're going to do things like that, if you're going to do a science experiment. Having larger tables that can come together works great for that. If you're somebody who likes to kind of read quietly to yourself, you're going to want some soft seating, maybe a lamp, maybe kind of more of a cozy space. You know, you can get like kind of partial height screens, or you can get furniture that kind of make it more of a tucked in, kind of a cave-like feel. And for some people, that's a better way for them to learn. They don't want to learn in a group, they want to learn on their own. So we have to make sure that a space that we design can accommodate all the different types of learners in the room. So good research. Why are you giggling at me?
I'm giggling at you.
What am I doing?
So a good thing to research is what are the different learning styles of students. Because it's not just going to be you guys learning in this space. It's going to be the 7th graders, the 6th graders, the 5th graders, the 4th graders, the 3rd graders, and kids that aren't even born yet. So what are the ways that people like to learn? Or that they're best learning?
Honestly, I like to learn in like an exciting moment.
Okay.
Kind of like a creepy, because it gets your
What?
heart pumping. And more,
So you like a little more excitement. So
Yeah.
if you were sitting on a ball stool and you kept slipping off, that would be kind of exciting.
well, I want this to be like a final destination moment.
Okay.
But like,
We're not designing haunted houses here.
But you like more of an experiential environment. So that's okay. So I think that's a good thing to look at is what are the different ways that people like to learn. And you can do a survey of your classmates. Maybe you do a short survey and you send it to every student in junior high. How do you like to learn? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, other. You know, and you list all those different ways that you've looked up. And that way you know, 20% of our kids like to learn this way, 40% prefer this. You know, 10% this, 3% this, and 2% that.
Our blog prompt this week is talking about this question because we're researching like learning styles.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to answer the question, what should the space do? Well, or how should the space work? Well, what are you going to do in that space? And be thinking about what kind of things do you want to do. Just because you've been learning the same way for the last 7, 8 years doesn't mean that's the way you need to continue learning. Is that your favorite way to learn? Okay, what else you guys got over here? Somebody's got something.
Right. When you start your proposal, like, do you start like how you start like a paper, like you greet someone, or do you just get like right to it? Like,
Well, are we talking about a written proposal? Are you talking about a verbal proposal?
just any proposal.
Well, I think whenever I do anything like that, I kind of just explain who I am and what my purpose is. So I would say, my name is Jean Underwood, I'm an architect, I'm representing this group of people, which is normally what I'm doing, and just kind of introduce myself. And so for you, you would say, you know, my name is whatever, 'cause I can't remember your name right now, I know who you are.
Dawson.
You know, I'm an 8th grade student, you know, and a little bit about yourself. Yeah. Because making it personal makes it more persuasive. And so that goes back to using your own voice. Who are you and why is it important, you know, to listen to what I have to say? Yes.
How do you know what modeling website you like to use?
You asked an expert. I recommend free ones. So if you're wanting to do kind of a 3D model, I would recommend SketchUp, Google SketchUp. It's free to everyone. It's supported everywhere, and lots of people know how to use it. It's got tutorials. We use it in practice. I mean, the professionals are using it, amateurs are using it, and everywhere in between. The other thing you can do is just kind of Google it, and you'll see, read the reviews, and kind of research it a little bit. Who else has questions?
What are your opinions about this project?
I think it's awesome. 2 thumbs up.
she thought that was a horrible question. I thought it was a really good question.
Well, there's no stupid questions. Every question is a good question.
Gracie.
But then we don't criticize our teammates. We don't
I didn't even say
criticize our
anything.
teammates. Yeah.
Sure.
If you're in a budget, do you think that if we stay within the budget, do you think that it would be necessary to make jobs and things that maybe we don't need but we would like to have?
If you're not within your budget?
Yeah,
Well, I think the most important thing to do is prioritize. Prioritize the items. So if you have a budget of $8,000, let's say $8,000, and you come up with $20,000 worth of things, you need to look at each one and say, this is what this item is doing for us. This is why it's important. Can I get it in the future? Can I live without it? Do I have to have it now in order for my projects to succeed? And kind of just prioritize that list, because just because there's a finite amount of money now doesn't mean there's always going to be a finite amount of money. There may be future sources of that money. But what do we absolutely need to make the space function the way we want it to right now?
This is Underwood. Could you share just really briefly, because you talked about your Iowa project last hour, and I think that really kind of blew everybody's mind away
Okay.
last hour.
Okay.
How that school is
How it's set up?
designed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm working on a middle school project in Iowa right now. And the way that we design the spaces is that there are learning studios. So all of the 8th grade, for example, is in one learning studio. So within that learning studio are the following spaces. We have 5 classroom spaces, which we call learning environments. We don't call them classrooms anymore. 3 of those classrooms are labs that are all connected to each other. There's a media lab. In the media lab, there's a green screen. You can do sound isolated, so you can do audio recordings, video recordings. You can do graphic design. There's computers. This school does. Every student learns guitar and keyboard. So it's sound isolated. So you can do all those things within the learning studio without going to the band room. There's music practice rooms because every student learns a musical instrument at that school, adjacent to the media lab. One of the classrooms is just kind of basically a lecture room, lecture, and it's got big windows that lead out into the courtyard. So in between the three labs, there's 2 rooms called wet prep rooms, and so that's a space where, for example, a science teacher could put like the chemicals and beakers and things like that. They can lock those down. Like the art teacher can put some of their different supplies in there as well. But the whole space is designed to be able to get wet, hence the name wet prep room. So if you wanted to do an experiment that you thought might get messy, you could do it within that room and close the doors. For example, if you wanted to take Mentos and put it in a soda 2-liter and it explodes everywhere, you could do that. And you wouldn't have to leave and go outside. You could just do that right there in that space. In addition to those kind of main classroom spaces, is a really large space called the gather area, kind of like a commons. It's like a space big enough for all the students in 8th grade to gather together, to listen to one teacher or a group of teachers lecture the whole student population in that grade. But it also provides space where if you're in your classroom and you want to break out into small groups, some of the students can go out into the gather space, and the teacher can still see them because there's large operable glass doors that divide the classroom from the gather. So Mrs. Ladder can still see what you're up to, even though you're not right in her classroom space. The other thing that we have are some smaller spaces that are all kind of open to that. There's 2 spaces called caves. These are meant for like 1, 2, 3 students. They're kind of more of a cozy, enclosed kind of space where you can have a little more quiet and think on your own. And then there's another space called campfire. That's meant more for like 5, 6, 7, 8 students. And within those spaces are also shelves for the teachers that have their own personal libraries to be able to put their books there, or for your library, your main library, to bring a collection that might be being used for 8th grade, for example. The other space that we have is a teacher's planning room, so it's teachers' offices. So the teachers don't have desks in the classrooms like Mrs. Bonner has. They have a desk in the teacher office with their own space there, and then they have a portable lectern that they can wheel between different classes if they're assigned to a space. So like you have your computers that you check out, Mrs. Bonner has these checked out, you check out a classroom. So you're not always in the same classroom. Depending on what you're doing, if you need a lab, you can go to a lab. If you need a lecture space, you go into the lecture space. If you want to use the gather, you go into the gather. You kind of schedule those spaces.
Keeps getting better. Just listen. Keeps getting better.
have what's called a fitness trail. So does anybody get tired of sitting after like a half an hour? Everyone.
I raised my hand.
Okay, after 5 minutes. So there's an 1/8 of a mile loop through the building called the fitness trail, and it has 8 different stations. And each different station you can do something different, whether it's agility, strength, stretching, nutrition, wellness, those different types of things. So you can do a loop on the track. So after 45 minutes, your brain's really kind of shut down and you stop thinking and really being, awesome. You can go take a quick loop around the fitness trail, or your parents can come in after school.
No more gym team.
They still have gym class, but this is kind of,
Is this a private school?
no, it's a public school.
I'm moving to Iowa.
I'm gonna go back to school.
Do you see like how ours is so far behind than like what other people are doing? We need to do this. You see what I'm saying?
Well, our school's broke. We have nothing. We can't even afford food.
So that's, all of these things are optional things. So if a teacher wanted to teach exactly the way they do today, if Mrs. Bonner said, I don't want to change anything, I
Can't
want
say all
my
that
desk in the corner, I want rows here, I want everyone to sit and listen to me, she could do that. But if Mrs. Bonner did not want to do that, she could rearrange all the furniture. She could use different spaces. She could say, okay, today we're going to meet and gather. Everybody grab a couch or a coffee table or whatever. You can do that. Maybe it's going to be a day where everybody's reading. What book do you guys read?
The Shadow.
Or you haven't started one yet?
I haven't picked one out yet.
What was the book you guys read last year?
Monster was the book we read
Sand
last.
something?
We read some
Roseanne's Day.
awful books last year.
Yeah.
That was intended for learning. That wasn't.
Well,
intended for
okay.
fun.
But do you enjoy sitting at a desk like this, reading a book?
No.
Or would you rather be over here on a couch with
Those
your
are
feet
chairs.
kicked up?
I'd rather be at home watching TV.
Well, is there something said to like creating
Of course,
a
Joe
space
does.
that mimics home?
Absolutely. So when we were designing this project, we observed every single teacher in their classroom. We asked them, what kind of activities do you like to do? We talked about how do students like to learn? What makes an education experience successful for students? And all of them were things like where a student can achieve to their fullest potential and they're happy doing it. Things like that. Are those goals for this space? If you were to say to the school board or the Hayward Educational Foundation, the goal of this project is that our students are happier in their environment, learn more, and are better prepared for life, who's going to say no to that? Nobody's going to say no to that. That's a compelling argument. And that's something that benefits every student that comes through the school district. Because when you come to school, don't you want to have a good time? You want to enjoy what you're doing? Sometimes you want school to be awesome. And if home is awesome, fantastic. You want it to be like home. If home's not awesome, then let's make school the awesome place that you get to go to. Let's see what else we have. So other things to think about. We talked about different things that you have in your space. So you've got your kind of projector smartboard area. You've got marker boards here. You've got contact boards. Are those in the best place? Is that the most convenient location? Should those be portable? Would that be better? Would it be worse? Is there enough storage in this room? I see lots of stacks of books all over the place. Is that the best way to store them? Is that the easiest way for you to get to them? Just kind of think about all that kind of stuff. Is this size table appropriate? Should they have wheels? Should they be smaller? Should they be able to be raised or lowered? Should you be able to move everything out of the way and sit on the floor? Should you be able to stand? If you want to do an activity where everybody's standing, sometimes we do that. What else? What other questions do you guys have?
Okay, can we get those
I got.
You got some good stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, don't put it on YouTube.
Did you stop it?